Hey guys, and welcome to Ozzie Reviews, and welcome to the August edition of Q&A, where you guys who support me on Patreon get to put a whole heap of questions to me and I answer them in this monthly edition. So let's jump straight into the new questions for this month. So we've got a couple of questions from Cam to start with, and first of all he's asking about Weatherby and Remington rifle reviews. So to answer that straight up, mate, no, I haven't done any Weatherby ones. Remington, I've done the Remington 7615, which is probably the most popular pump rifle here in Australia, so have a look at that one. It's like anything though, I just need more time to get through all the product out there. I don't think I will ever get through all the product because there's just so much of it, but all I can do is just get done what I've got the time for. Second part of your question here, mate, just want to know about the difference between pistol and revolver accuracy. So look, big difference I find with semi-auto pistols to revolvers, just in their whole function and their use. And what I mean by that is mainly like a revolver to me, you know, I like shooting like long distance with it. When I say long distance, I'm talking about like silhouette competitions, you know, so out to 200 yards. Nothing better than you know, getting a 357 Magnum with a good 8-inch barrel on it and knocking over some silhouettes at that distance. It's quite a lot of fun. But for the accuracy, I do find revolvers very, very accurate in general. Not to say that a lot of the semi-auto pistols aren't. I mean, some of them now are just fantastic compared to what they were 20 years ago. So really it comes down to your preference and what type of competition shooting or use for that handgun that you have. The last part of your question talks about shooting from 700 to 1,000 yards, and you want to know whether a sporter rifle basically will do the job. Well, yes it will. Like, you will certainly be able to get out to that distance. However, there's a lot of things that really influence the sporter barrel being at a big disadvantage, really, in my view, as opposed to like a varmint barrel and a varmint target type setup rifle. So what I'm going to do is I'll just address that in the next question, because I've got a very similar question here, and I can answer your question and the next question here in the one go. So the next question we've got is from John Economides, and he asks about the differences between sporter versus heavy varmint barrels, and being the advantage and disadvantage of both, and what would my preference be. So I'll answer your question, John, and Cam's all in one with this. So look, for me, the biggest difference, the first question I ask myself is, what is my use? You know, like for example, if I'm going to get a rifle for going out and going after pigs, or you know, a deer rifle, there is no way in hell I'm going to have a heavy barrel varmint type rifle, you know, to go out and do that job, because you know, you're going to be walking, and you're going to be walking for Ks and Ks and Ks. And when you've got a heavy rifle, you know, slung over your shoulder, guys, it weighs you down. You know, if you've got an opportunity to do it, sling one on your shoulder next time you're out, you know, shooting on a private property, and go for a walk up some hills and everything with a heavy rifle, and you'll soon see what I'm talking about. So that's the first thing that I ask myself. The next thing is too, which I look at more as an advantage, is the heavy barrel with heating up. Okay, now why I say that is because a sporter barrel will heat up quite quickly. Now, typically, depending on what you're doing with that sporter barrel, it's more of a hunting situation where you're going out, maybe fire just off a few shots, and that's about it. Where that target varmint type barrel to me is like, you know, roost shooting, you know, where you're repetitively putting rounds down range, so to speak, or you're at a range and you're shooting in competitions or something like that, where you've got that need for long distance accuracy. Now that would be when I go more towards a target or varmint type setup, because the need is there for it. So when a barrel heats up typically, and I'm sure I've addressed this previously, but I'll talk about it again here, is it will get hot and accuracy will suffer, okay, when it gets very, very hot. And I'm not talking about you know, rounds just flying off the paper and all of a sudden you've got a group like this and then you can't even hit the target. What I'm talking about is the group spreading, okay? Now that happens a lot when barrels heat up. Now a heavy barrel will take longer to heat up, okay, so you should be able to maintain that accuracy for longer periods, okay, as opposed to a sporter barrel that heats up, you know, 2-3 times quicker. Doesn't even matter whether it's a varmint barrel or a sporter barrel. Once it gets really, really hot, you can have that problem with accuracy suffering as a result of it heating up so much. Okay, so that's the sort of thing I'd look at, and really for my preference, it comes down to what I'm doing. So I've answered that in a nutshell. If it's somewhere where I've got to be walking around or shooting off the shoulder, definitely will not be using a like heavy barrel type target rifle. Okay, for that use, I'd look at waiting around the dam, sitting off like 100, 200 yards waiting for pigs to come into a dam, or shooting off the back of a ute or something like that. That would be more my preference for that type of rifle. Whereas walking around, shooting off the shoulder, I definitely want something that's lightweight, that's not going to weigh me down. Now, Edward Gayton asks here what my experience is, or my view on the Winchester lineup of rifles. So the Model 70, 94, and also the XPR. So the XPR, really, mate, I look at that as like a Ruger American competitor, because it's just one of those entry budget type firearms from a manufacturer to compete with various other manufacturers with rifles in that same price bracket. I haven't used it, so I honestly can't give you a viewpoint on that, I'm sorry. The Model 94, definitely have used that in 30-30. Great rifle, no problems at all, and honestly in North Queensland it's probably one of the most popular pig hunting rifles, and for good reason. The Model 70, yes, I've used them, haven't reviewed them or anything like that, but look, had no problem with them. So Winchester's just one of those brands that I haven't had a lot of firearms from them. I've had a handful over the years, but never had any problems. So if you like some of those models, by all means, go and get yourself one, and let me know how it shoots. The next question here is from Luke Robson, and he asks, will I ever review a Warwick straight pull WFA1 rifle? Interesting question, this one. There's a little bit of history to it, guys, and I do get asked this a lot, so hopefully a few people watching this will see it and they won't have to ask me about it. Basically, their short answer is no, and the reason for that was originally when Warwicks were kicking off the ground and they were producing their rifles, they approached me and asked me if I'd be interested in reviewing one of their rifles, which I agreed to. Then I had to chase them up for months, 6 odd times I chased them up, and I was always promised, oh yep, no, next week we'll get onto it, or no, we'll get someone to call you back in another day. This was the responses I got continuously. And then I thought, hang on, like, I don't charge these people, so why should I be chasing them? It should be the other way around, because of the promotional opportunity that they get by offering something to me, to review. So I said no. Well, I'm not going to do it after that, because I never got contacted again. I was sick of chasing them up, and I thought, geez, if this is what their customer service is like, I don't want to promote a product that treats people like that. So what happened after that is, funny enough, last weekend at the SHOT Expo, I had Scott Warwick, the owner, come and see me. Once again, long story short, he mentioned that the person I was dealing with is no longer an employee there, and he wasn't aware that all this was going on, and offered me a rifle to shoot and get my thoughts on. So I said to him, look, definitely happy to talk about it, so I won't write the rifle off now, and look, there may just be a review in the future, so I'm definitely open to it. That's the bottom line, but I just wanted to explain the history there, guys, because so many people have asked me, why haven't I reviewed one? So that's the answer. Now the next question here is from Nick, and he wants to know about the military 308 ammo, the M118LR, and he wants to know whether he can use it in his 20-inch Hauer 308, safely, or is there any problems with it? So mate, look, from memory, I mean, it's 173 grain full metal jacket boat tail in that ammo, I believe. It may have changed since I've used it last, but I don't really like the ammo. A lot of military type ammo I just don't like in general, because usually I don't find it very consistent, or it doesn't give the accuracy that I want or can achieve with other factory ammunition. So in saying that though, if you want something that's cheap, I mean look, it doesn't matter if it's chambered in 7.62 by 51 Nato or 308. I mean, they're completely interchangeable. There's no difference there, okay? It's not like 223 and 556 Nato, okay? There's definitely differences there. So not a problem. Just grab a pack, take it out. If it doesn't shoot, it doesn't work, to your expectations, just try another ammunition. Jared Batty asks an interesting question here about what's the range that a person can shoot a 45-70 accurately. Good question, mate, because a lot of people talk about the 30-30s and 45-70 and try to say, oh, it's only a 100-yard gun. And that really frustrates me when I hear that, because I think you go out further than 100. I go and stand at 200 and get hit by one and see if it's only a 100-yard gun. I find that comment absolutely ridiculous personally, but you know, what it is because they're heavy projectiles, you know, and they've got that you know, very steep trajectory and stuff like that, as opposed to something like a 243 or something that's firing a lot flatter. But in saying that, you can certainly shoot it a lot further. I like to look at the physics and the mathematics behind things. Now, when you're shooting rifles, usually if you can stay supersonic with that round, so in other words above the speed of sound, at those whatever distance before it goes down to subsonic or passes through that transonic zone or period, you know, you can maintain pretty good accuracy. So for the 45-70, it leaves the muzzle, and that's using these 325 grain Hornady FTX rounds that I was using on the Marlin review. That's about 2,050 feet a second. Once it gets out to 300 yards, it's gone down to 1,225 feet a second. So it's still supersonic, isn't it? It's still above the speed of sound. So after that, though, that's when you can expect a lot of accuracy problems, because it's going to travel from, you know, the 300 to 400 yard mark and go through that transonic zone. So that's when you're going to have a few problems, or potentially have quite a few problems. So for me, I wouldn't shoot a 45-70 over 300 yards, and that's why. And that's why I easily shot it off the shoulder there when I did the Marlin review at the gong at 300. Got there no problem. Accurate? Yeah. Hell yeah. So, you know, it's the sort of thing that you've got to look at it on the flip side as well. Even though it gets there, you know, with the game that you're actually going to be shooting with a 45-70, are you going to be at that distance? And probably not, because mainly you're going to be shooting very large peaks and buffalo. Okay, so all that game, you're going to be within like 75 to 125 yards as an average. 45-70 will absolutely annihilate any game here in Australia you know, within those distances, mark my words. Okay, so the last question is from Nicholas Clack, and he asks about the SHOT Show and what my feelings are on the SHOT Expo here in Australia, and what direction it's going in. Has it changed, you know, from previous years, etc., etc. Well, mate, look, at the end of the day, I've been to a couple of Sydney shows, a couple of Melbourne shows, and now a couple of Brisbane shows. So about 5-6 shows that I've been to. And to be quite honest, I see it growing all the time. You know, you always see like a new manufacturer or a new company coming on board. Plus, you know, the old time favourites that are always been there, like, you know, Winchester and Beretta and OSA, and, you know, just a lot of those companies that have been around for a while, they're always there usually. So it's great to see more and more people getting on board. The vibe at the shows and the amount of the crowd in terms of numbers that the show brings in is just increasing all the time. I mean, we had on the first day last weekend, we had I think it was about 7,500 people come through the doors on Saturday morning. You know, that was massive. And I know it because, you know, when I had my own booth there, it's the first time I've had my own booth. You know, I had a lineup of over 50 people just waiting just to say hello to me. In saying that though, you know, I certainly got through it all over a couple of days, but it was very overwhelming for me. I actually, to be quite honest, the word for it is humble. I was very humbled and touched that a lot of people would come down and give up their morning to come and say hello to me. So, yeah, for me personally, it doesn't change me. All it does is just give me a bit more drive to continue going on with the reviews, and it just makes me thankful to actually take Aussie reviews from what once was a 1 or 2 video a month sort of thing to now, you know, a couple of videos a week if we can. You know, certainly the demand is there, that's what I'm getting at, and I feel quite privileged to have that following. I certainly do. So look, I thank everyone for it, and the show in general is just going to get bigger and better in my view. Alright guys, so that's the questions for this month. So thanks very much to all of you who have put the questions in. If you want to become a part of this, all you need to do is just jump onto Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can put down as many questions as you like. Alright guys, really appreciate all the support, I honestly do, so thank you to each and every one of you that do support me, and we'll catch you on the next video.